tell whether or not the females are in estrus. They taste their urine, and they use an organ known as the Jacobson's organ, and they taste the urine, they push that scent onto that organ, and that allows them to tell whether or not the females are in estrus. And it's not just the lions that do it, there are other animals that do it too, but the lions, they really put on this amazing face, this snarling face, and that's when they're pushing that scent onto that organ, and it's known as the phlegm and grimace. This is really incredible, everyone, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's so hot, and usually lions do end up resting during the day, but it just shows you animals will change their behavior regularly. No book and no expert can tell you exactly how animals will behave. If they're thirsty, they will go off and find water, and if they feel like moving around, they will do that. So it's really great that we can show you this, because this is different behavior to what you are usually told. Most people always say lions and leopards will rest and sleep during the day and only move at night, but that's not the case. They will definitely move during the day if they want to. We've just got a comment from one of our viewers, and Molly, and Molly's had a better look at this male, and she says this is not the same male that we saw this morning. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. So I'm not sure which male this is. One of the other Birmingham males. So there's possibly another male around here somewhere, because we're not far from where we saw that other male and female. So who knows, that could be the female that we saw this morning that walked back towards the rest of the pride and she left the male possibly around here, and this could be another female with the male, and they've moved away from the pride, and I'm not too sure where they are going. And it's interesting, it's very, very interesting. Now Steph can hear, apparently Steph on his walk can hear buffalo distress calls around Gallagher shortcut, which is not too far from where we are. So I wonder, there's no way of getting around these lions now, but I think we should stick with them. Maybe they'll take us into that area. Let's just see. I'm going to stop up ahead and just listen and see if we can hear those calls. Alright, let's just stop and listen here for a second. I'm just going to take my earpiece out so I can use both my ears. I can't hear anything at the moment. I think we may still be a little bit far from where we are. Trying to listen, everybody, but I don't hear anything. Okay, we're going to stick with these lines and see where they go. I'm going to carry on listening out for that buffalo that Steph says he can hear. While I do that, let's head back to Taylor and that big male leopard and see what they're up to.
We are still sitting with the beautiful king, and we are watching him pant away and swat all the flies. He hasn't caught any flies just yet. I've been doing a count. Almost. That was close. That was the closest he's come so far. And I'm sure you can hear the buffalo weavers behind me. Typical, every single time I mention birds, they stop chatting. And the reason why I like to point out the bird calls as we sit with the various animals, it's just quite nice, I think, to start learning the calls as well. It's one thing being able to identify the various birds, of course, by sight. It takes a whole new skill to identify them by hearing. And I think it's nice for you to sit at home and be able to go, ah, I know that bird. I'm sure you're getting some great screenshots as he tries to bite all the flies. But he hasn't really shown us any other signs of moving just yet. He hasn't started grooming himself. And I'm sure he'll give himself a quick groom before he does get up and start moving. We know that this is normally one of the signs. However, oh no, I was just about to say, with all this sort of jumping around and trying to swat all the flies, perhaps he's going to need another siesta. And just before I could get those words out, well, it looks like he's going to have another nap again. I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to get up just yet and start wandering around the bush. I think it's a bit too warm. I don't even think we've seen any impala yet this afternoon. Now we're watching him swat away, and I know that myself and, of course, the other presenters, we always chat about how in Kenya and Tanzania we often see the lions and things sitting up in trees to avoid all the biting insects. And Alice is wondering exactly that. Alice says this afternoon, why hasn't he gone up a tree to avoid the insects? Now, Alice, I don't know. That's where I would be. I'd be sitting definitely on the top of a marula tree with nice and shade. He'd probably still have a couple of flies bothering him up there, but I think there's some ants and sorts of other goodies down on the ground, because he gets quite upset. And I don't think it's the flies that are doing all the biting. I think there's something else that's annoying him as well. You can see every time it's something around his rump, he swats the tail, and then he kicks his back legs. He's getting very agitated. Now we're probably just going to be able to spend a couple more minutes here, but then we're going to have to pull out. I know there's some other guides who are dying to come and see. And we have spent a good amount of Mr. Tingana this evening. Of course, if there is a spot that perhaps opens up again a little bit later, well then, we can always see if we can come back. But I can hear another vehicle moving into the sighting, and I know that Ephraim has only just got here with his guests. So I feel as though we're going to have to leave in a minute or two. My goodness, those buffalo weavers are making all sorts of noise. Isn't this lovely? Right, I think grab your final screenshots as he glares back at us. Isn't that lovely? And I'm going to have to do a little bit of maneuvering now to get myself out of this little situation that I got myself into. But let's go back across to Steph and see how he's doing in the sun.
You caught us busy following up on some birds making an alarm call just in front here. And you know, it's always a good thing this time of the year to follow up on birds making alarm calls, because quite often it can sort of result in a sighting of something. Either it be a snake or a lizard or a bird of prey, a little bird of prey like an owl. Now we are walking into the sun, forgive us for this, and I am going to have to pull some branches out of the way for Brian here. Here you go. Don't forget, we are walking around live here on foot. It is a bit difficult to thread our way sometimes through these thick bushes. Now, I am busy looking out for... Oh, there we go. It was a nightjar. No, didn't get him, eh? And they are so difficult to... They are just so difficult to get a second time. But that's not what these birds are busy calling about. That Nat.Geo was sitting here. It's not what these birds are alarm calling about. Let's see what is going on here. So you've got to be careful in bush like this that you're not... Okay, so we've got a southern black-tit at the top here. What are you alarm calling about? I can hear the birds in the front here. What you don't want to do is step on a black mamba or a puff adder or something that these birds are seeing and you not. So you just got to take your care here. Let's see. This bush could harbor near anything, from a snake all the way through to an owl. Okay, so now we're here. Let's see where we can see these birds bouncing around in, because that'll give us another good idea. I can hear them, but I can't see them inside there. Let's see. And of course now they've stopped. Ah, the law of the jungle. Let's see if we can sneak up on that Nat.Geo one last time. Whatever it was must have flown away. Let's see. That Nat.Geo flew up and into this bush here. Now, they'd be sitting on the ground. They use the camouflage that they have on top of their backs to camouflage them against the floor. Sometimes you find Nat.Geos that are actually sitting on branches just this high or so above the ground. But generally speaking, they are on the ground this time of the day. Now we just got to scan here. We're probably going to fly up, to be honest. So it flew up there and landed over here somewhere. Let's see if I can flash it for us. I don't suggest following me in here. It'll probably be a little bit of a nightmare to try and get around. And also that Nat.Geo hasn't come up here. Could it have been? Oh, it's just so disappointing not being able to show you anything, I tell you. Knowing something's here but not being able to show it to you is deeply frustrating. But anyway, over that, Ella has definitely found something for you. We'll carry on looking.
We've got a very common animal at the moment. We have got a nice herd of buffalo who seem to be very relaxed, of course, because indeed the Nkuhumas are far, far away from them. So buffalo, enjoy the peace and quiet, I hope, while it lasts. And we can see them browsing again, and I've been saying this over and over. That's when you know that there is not enough food around, is when the buffalo start to browse. They really only do it when they are quite desperate. We're going to have to wait a couple more days until the grass comes back through. It's slightly greening up again, but I think it'll just need a little bit more time. The ground was so thirsty, it really just absorbed every drop of water that came from the skies. Now, something that I thought we would do, seeing as though we're in the area, we're on Cheetah Cutline at the moment, is I'd like to go and have a look at that buffalo carcass that died of sort of an injury he sustained from another buffalo bull. And I'm wondering what that's going to look like. Well, and I'm wondering what it's going to smell like too. So I think let's carry on, and I'm going to carry on I just caught the last part of that. Tula Ann, you've just made my day. So everyone, Tula Ann is 4 years old, and she has asked, are buffalo just like cows, but with hats? I absolutely love that description, Tula Ann. That is something that I've never heard before, describing the horns of the buffalo as a hat. That is lovely. Well done to you, and I love the creative minds that the youth of today has. Now, Tula Ann, they are very much like cows. These are just very angry cows. They're not quite as relaxed as the ones that you see that make lots of milk for us, or the ones that you just see out in the field and the different farmyards. But they are definitely in the same family. They don't always seem to have as much hair covering their body. Sometimes their hair seems to be a little bit more sparse. And then, of course, they've got the different type of horns on their head, like a big helmet. Now, Tula Ann, it's important that, especially the males, they have those big helmets. And here's a word, what you call that? It's called a boss. Now, I'm sure you can say the word boss. Now, the boss is very, very important, of course, because it, like I said, it acts as a helmet. So when the boy buffaloes are fighting each other, when they're banging heads, they run from far away and they bah! And they clash heads like that. And of course, you know, when you go to ride your bicycle, you have to put your helmet on because of safety. And that's exactly what that is it just prevents your brain from banging around in your head too much. But we're moving on from those buffalo now. They were unfortunately disappearing into Torchwood. They were just out of range. But I really want to go and have a look and see how this other buffalo is doing. We're not too far. We're actually just around the corner. We should be taking a sharp left any moment now. And then we'll need to find the track that I've gone in so many times. And see, I haven't seen any vulture activity. So I don't think that the vultures have got it just yet, but perhaps with all the hyenas that have been going up and down. Remember, I said this morning, very early on in the drive, that I'd seen lots and lots of hyena footprints. I didn't come up this way, and I'm pretty sure that that carcass is going to smell absolutely vile now. So I'm going to go in with my hand in front of my face, and I should have probably brought some of that Vicks vapor rub to put under my nose, and then I would have been alright. I think that's probably what I'll have to buy when I go on holiday next, on my next vacation, is something mentally that I can pop under my nose and it doesn't smell so bad. Because, you know, I haven't got a weak stomach, I'm not too bad, but, well, there's just something about a rotting buffalo carcass that gets underneath my skin. Get there eventually. Well, let me just check my GPS and make sure that I haven't missed the road. I could be going in the complete opposite way. Are we going around? No, I think we're right. I think I'm coming to my turn off now. Yes, this is the road that I want to actually go on. Is it? I don't know if I checked properly. No, I went too far. VM, we went too far. Well, goodness gracious, my GP, I'm not concentrating very well apparently this afternoon. We need to do a little bit more of a detour. I thought that we were not as far up Cheetah cut line, but I think that I was chatting VM's left ear off and I was forgetting exactly where I was. It's okay. That's all right. Sometimes the scenic way around is quite nice. I don't mind it at all. We'll have a little look around here. Perhaps there's something interesting. Let's see. I'd actually like to try and find millipede this afternoon. I enjoy seeing them on safari, and because we went so many months without seeing them, I don't mind every day just having a little millipede appreciation. Oh, hang on. Oh no, we're right. No, we're not lost. Is this where we went? Yes, we need to get in here. They've just moved the tree that was in the road. I can smell it. I can smell that buffalo already. No, that's, we can go a little bit further to get into 4x4. Just going up a bit of a steep. Here we go. It's stinky from here. Right, let's go through here. Well, we should start to see it. Just need to change my... Oh, hang on, I actually see a vulture. There's a warbird. Is there? Where are you looking, View? Okay, it looks actually like the vultures are down on that carcass. I've just seen a couple flying down. Let's go around to it and let's see the damage that the vultures have done to it. We'll just sneak through here. Oh my goodness, this is going to be wonderful. Okay, there seem to be a lot of vultures flying away. So what we will do is we'll try not get too close. We'll watch for a distance, and then we'll have to wait for the vultures to settle down again, of course, because they're going to be a bit nervous of us. We'll get a little bit closer though, and we know it only takes a couple of minutes before they get brave again and they come back and realize that we're not indeed a threat. But that's exciting. I was worried that that carcass was going to go to waste. Thank goodness for the vultures. Well done on spotting that, vultures. Right, we'll get a little bit closer. We can start to see it just through here. We'll just diddle-dally along. It's okay, vultures, don't worry. We just want to watch you devour this carcass. Right, I'm going to try and get into a nice position now and sit patiently and wait for these vultures. But while we do, let's go back across and see how Mr. Winterboer is doing.
This is such a rare treat. We're on foot 10 or 15 yards away from the scrub hare, who seems absolutely oblivious to us even being here. And it's just giving us such a unique daytime view of this animal that we normally only see by spotlight and then for fleeting glimpses. Just have a look at that. You know, and if I were to say what the sighting was of the day, or is of the day, around these string of pans that we've been visiting, this would have to be it. This takes the cake at being very, very special. Here you can have a view of what the scrub hare is doing, what they do in the daytime, and just completely relaxed. Have a look at those blood vessels in their ears. Give you some indication as to what it's like to be me. Blood just pounding through those ears. Way to keep cool, but also to hear. Let's move around this tree a little bit. I don't want to get closer, but what I do want to do is just shift left a little bit, just so that we can get into a view here. I must be honest with you, this hare is probably out because it's starving. They are grass eaters, and unlike rabbits, hares do not dig burrows. One of the major differences between a hare and a rabbit is the fact that a rabbit digs a burrow and a hare just has a scrape, basically. Another difference is the fact that a rabbit has altricial young, which means that the young are born blind and helpless, whereas a scrub hare has fewer babies, but they are born precocial, which means that precocious, which means that they can see and walk and function as adults from very close to birth. This this hare is just literally moving from tuft of grass to tuft of grass next to this pan, and I would wager that it's probably the only grass around here at the moment. Let's see if I can get a better view for you through here. No, that's about the best view that we're going to get. Oh, that is such a treat. Let's have the sunlight streaming through the ears. Now, Lord Tifferon, you've just asked a very good question. Is this introduced or is it native? Lord Tifferon, this is a endemic or a indigenous species. We have the scrub hare and there are a few endemic rabbits as well. The riverine rabbit is one of South Africa's best known rabbits, mainly because it's also one of the most critically endangered species that we have. We also get the Cape hare, But this scrub hare is here. This is the only one of the lagomorphs, as we call them, to occur in this particular area. There is a rodent that looks like a hare called a spring hare that occurs up on the high veld, up on the inland plateau, but we don't find them here. There's a front-on shot of this guy. And while we are with them, it's just so nice to spend some time. This is just such an unusual sighting. Have a look at that massive eye. Using bottom canines, or incisors, excuse me, not canines, so incisors, the front teeth, to shear off grass, and those incisors never stop growing. They pretty much grow non-stop and are worn down through the feeding action and through rubbing against the top incisors. So the one incisor, the top incisor sharpens and shortens the bottom incisor and keeps them like little shears, which they can cut the grass. The rabbit, or the hare, excuse me, I keep on saying rabbit. The hare then swallows the grass. It comes out as a blackish pellet, which that hare will then re-ingest through a process called coprophagy, or the eating of or the eating of dung. And because it's changed chemically the first time round, the rabbit is then able to have a second go at it and basically get as much nutrients from as little grass as possible. And that is why these hares are some of the most successful. We find them all the way, not quite in true desert, but they are sort of semi-arid specialists. I just find their ears, you know, it's not every day that you get to see an animal with such big ears. And although we are used to stories from a young age of hares and rabbits with their massive ears, it never ever fails to amaze me, sort of like a giraffe's long neck or a zebra's stripes, as to just how bizarre this particular feature of theirs is. Not only cupped to catch sound, but also, as Bree has just so rightly said, a way of thermoregulation, so a way to shed heat. And they can keep their ears flat against their body, along their back, which actually warms up the blood as well. So it's a double-edged thermoregulation tool, basically. They can wave their ears up and keep themselves nice and cool, and then they can fold them flat against their back, and it keeps them nice and warm, or at least keeps them warmer, and they don't use as much heat. But have a look here, it's coming around the front here. I mean, oh, there we go. Look at those long legs. Used for running and jinking away. Just amazing. And now you're going to be leaving us to go through to yet another, I say that, but yet another surprise that we have in store for you. And we'll see you later.
It is indeed another surprise. Look at this, everyone. These lions have found another buffalo. Now, I say found because when we managed to follow them through this very thick or dense thicket, it's almost like they knew where they were going though. So I don't know if they killed this buffalo or if it died of natural causes and they've just found it and are coming to feed on it. You can see that stomach is very swollen, of that buffalo. So I think it has been dead for a while. Maybe it was killed this morning and it's just swollen during the course of the day. So perhaps these lions killed this buffalo earlier, and they went to go and drink, and then returned to feed on it. Now I can see this is the male with that very bad scar around the nose. So as one of our viewers said earlier, this is not the male we saw this morning, and it definitely isn't. So I'm not too sure where they are. That other couple, or pair rather, not couple. Can you believe it? Wow, these lions have been so fortunate with buffalo. It's very unfortunate for the buffalo, but again, this is nature, and this is nature's way of maintaining a balance. You know, if the buffalo herds get too large, they can really devastate an area especially when it's dry, because they feed on grass and they're bulk feeders, so they constantly feed. Even though they are ruminants, they do still feed on a lot of grass and constantly move through an area, just like cattle do. So you can imagine huge herds. This is nature's way of finding a balance, I think, and thinning out the buffalo numbers a little bit. You know, it has been a bad drought and animals have suffered, but it is all part of the life cycle and part of nature. And luckily for these lions, they get another meal, which is great. So this is very interesting. I'd love to know what happened here. We really don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe these lions did kill the buffalo, possibly went and drank. There was no need for them to feed earlier. I mean, these lions have been feeding on buffalo almost every day. So it's interesting, very, very interesting. And you know, sometimes we will never know what happened, which is okay. The mystery is sometimes what is so intriguing. We had to do some serious off-road driving to get in here. Dave and I, there was a moment where we didn't think we were going to make it through. And quite a deep drainage line that we had to cross. Still don't know how we're going to get out of here, but we'll worry about that later. See, that male's still very, very hot and not interested in feeding. He's panting quite heavily. That's how I can tell that he is warm. His mouth's open. That scar is actually looking much, much better. It's incredible how these animals are able to heal. Look at that. That's amazing. Oh, there's a lovely cool breeze just blowing at the moment. Look at those teeth. Wow. This doesn't look like a very big buffalo either. I would say it's probably a teenager or young female. So Susan has sent through a comment about this lioness's tail. Susan says it looks like quite powerful, and they could probably knock things over with it, or even cause bruises if they had to hit us with their tail. Susan, those tails are very powerful. They're very thick and muscular and very, very strong. I've never been hit by a lion's tail before, but I would imagine it's probably a little painful. I think if I'd been hit by the tail, I probably wouldn't be here to tell the tale. But yes, they are quite powerful and quite thick. To fight for territory, they will fight basically for females, the prides that are in the area. They will fight for dominance to be able to mate with those females. But even males that are part of a coalition, which means they are probably brothers or they are related in some way, not necessarily always. Occasionally you may have males from different prides that meet up when they are young and they form a coalition, but those coalitions will stick together and together they're able to have much larger territories. But even though they work together to protect territories against other male lions, they will fight amongst themselves for dominance over females so that they can mate with them. Success for a lion is basically, and this goes for nature in general, success is to have a large territory or to have an area that you patrol and roam and to have offspring. That is basically it. That is success in nature. And for these lions to have a large territory and mate with these females and have offspring, they are then considered to be successful. Look how powerful that female is. She's moving that whole buffalo. So a question from Musical in Colorado, and they would like to know, would lions ever take on a hippo? Yes, definitely. I have seen lions actually run and attack and jump on a hippo while it's leaving a small little water hole like we saw earlier. So 100% yes, they would. Usually smaller hippo are a bit easier to bring down, but it's not to say they won't go for a larger hippo either. So yes, they will indeed go for hippo. We're going to sit with these lions and their new buffalo carcass for a while. While we do that, let's head back to Taylor for an update on the old buffalo carcass.
Now, the vultures unfortunately haven't quite made their return just yet, but there's a couple that are sitting around and their crops are not full at all. And if we have a look at this carcass itself, it actually doesn't look like they've eaten much of it at all. But let's have a little closer examination. Now, this is going to be quite gruesome, so do bear in mind that there are going to be lots of maggots on this carcass. But you can see it's not as bloated as what it was yesterday morning. But definitely no obvious open sections yet. Perhaps if these vultures, if they were feeding, were mainly feeding from the rump and possibly around the eyes and the mouth, but they haven't opened it up just yet. You can see all those maggots moving around. Now, maybe these vultures only just discovered it quite recently, possibly in the last little bit. This is an unusual time for them to continue feeding as it's starting to get dark. And there is a white-backed vulture that is just sort of standing and watching. You can see it through there. And you can see how its crop is not full at all. And the others are all sitting in the trees, but they don't seem to be exceptionally excited by this buffalo carcass like what we saw the other day. But we'll definitely follow up on it again. But I want you to have another look at those maggots. I think it's time that we pay the maggots some attention, of course. Now, as gross as they may be, they're really important. They're a great source of food for various birds. We've seen the crested francolins often coming up to the carcasses and picking at the maggots. The starlings will do the same thing. And of course, I don't know, I have never seen a bush pig up here. But bush pig love to scavenge on carcasses, and it's often the maggots that they're feeding on. Like I said, very good source of protein. Now, it's quite interesting because with Mfumo, the Birmingham male lion who had the injury in his face, we discussed how it was a type of myiasis. Now, the maggots that you're seeing on this carcass, unfortunately, are not from the same species of fly, whichever fly it may have been that caused that specific type of myiasis. These maggots are feeding on the dead tissue, whereas the maggots that had hatched inside Mfumo's face were, of course, maggots that were feeding on live flesh. But luckily it seems to be healing up. And now there's a species of fly that they use in the States called Califorrid, which is the specific species of fly, and they take their maggots and they actually introduce them onto patients. Perhaps if they've got maybe necrosis of the skin, they will put a couple of sterilized maggots. Now, it has to be from the specific species because the specific fly only eats dead tissue. It doesn't touch the living tissue. And of course, they are bred in a lab, sort of under sterile conditions. Then they are then introduced onto the wound, where the doctors will let them do their magic and eat away at all the dying flesh. And I think that is quite amazing that they're able to do something incredible like that. But that's the story of the maggots for this afternoon. We're going to make our way out of here. I don't want to keep disturbing these vultures too much. Perhaps it is us why they're not happy with us, so we will leave them. I just very quickly wanted to show you the beautiful maggots that are on there. But like VM and I were just chatting about, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, was that with all those maggots that are going to provide all sorts of meals for the different animals, I'm not looking forward to all the flies that are going to be produced from them. So I'm hoping that all the different bird species hurry up and get here and eat as many of the larvae as they can. But now I need to do a couple of maneuvers to get out of here. Let's go back across to Byron and those ever so successful Nkuhumas.
Just the female that's feeding at the moment. She's trying to break open the carcass, and look how she's licking there. It's very, very interesting. And the reason for that is because their tongues are so rough, and sometimes they can lick away skin completely. They've got very, very rough tongues. Look, if you have a close-up of a tongue, it almost looks like it's barbed. It's got little hairs on it. Very, very rough. And then she'll try to use the front teeth to tear open the carcass. I take my hat off to Taylor, who went to go and have a look at that old carcass, because I assume the smell is not very pleasant around there. So rather Taylor than me. This one hasn't started smelling yet, but I've got a feeling that if this lion manages to break that stomach open, it's not going to be very pleasant. Look at that lion chewing with the side of its mouth now. Just the right hand side. And the reason for that is these lions, they've got something called a carnassial shear. And the carnassial shear, these teeth right at the back of their mouths, so the molars and the premolars. And what they do is they actually overlap with each other, so they form a slightly sharpened edge, and then therefore cause a scissor motion. And obviously that's where all the muscles are, right at the back of the jaw, and they're able to feed and chew and tear meat with that shear at the back, those really tough, hard molars and premolars and all that muscle at the back of the jaw. So they'll prefer to feed with that, and you can see this female doing this now, they will still use their front teeth to try and tear open the carcass before they get to the meat and before they start using the sides of their mouths to feed on it. It's interesting, the male hasn't been interested in feeding at all. He's possibly still full from all the buffalo they had the previous day. So, Deborah, armchair traveler. Hi Deborah, good afternoon, almost good evening to you. And Deborah says she's very curious as to why this male isn't feeding either, and very surprised that he's not feeding. And like I say, Deborah, possibly just because they've been feeding on so many buffalo, or daily. It's been a daily occurrence. So yeah, I think maybe later he'll start feeding again. They're very opportunistic, and I think that's exactly what's happened here. is because these lions either found this buffalo or killed it earlier this morning. I'm not sure. We don't know. And like I said, that's actually, it's nice to have a bit of mystery at times. But he's not interested in feeding. But it seemed as if they knew exactly where to go, because we followed them almost directly to the spot. They walked through and down into quite a deep drainage line, not far from Mvubu Road. And we're basically between Mvubu and Galago shortcut. It's a little tricky, this area. Like I said, I don't know how we're going to get out of here because we did some serious off-roading to get in here. But at the end of the day, we will do as much as we can to get you to see these amazing sightings. Selena has asked us a question: do lions kill even if they're not hungry? Selena, yes they do. And the reason for that is, as I said, they're so opportunistic. All these big cats are. I've seen lions feeding on a wildebeest, and while they were feeding, another one walked past and they all got up and chased that one too and tried to kill it. So even if they're not hungry, they will still try and hunt. And the reason for that is because they don't know when their next meal is going to come about. You know, occasionally, sometimes the year, lions aren't very successful and they can go 2 or 3 days without food. So if there's a chance to hunt and have spare food around, they will definitely do it and definitely take that opportunity. Lovely peaceful afternoon. Still a few birds calling. I can hear a Jacobin cuckoo calling in the distance. I can hear a pearl-spotted owl. I think those are a little bit too far for you to pick up on or to hear. But there's some interesting birds calling. Cape turtle dove. We always say it's got that call which sounds like it's saying work harder. Work harder, work harder. But then I joke with my guests and say, but that's what it says in the morning, and in the afternoons, it's drink lager, drink lager. But again, I don't think so. Wow, that lioness is really tucking into that buffalo, trying to rip it open. So Selena has asked, will these ticks jump off the buffalo? And Selena, if you have a look closely, let's see if we can zoom in, but there are still ticks on that buffalo. You can see there's still a few ticks around there. And I think some of these ticks might get eaten by the lions because they are just hanging onto the skin of the buffalo. But I think when they are disturbed, chances are they'll probably move off a little bit while the lions are feeding, but I wouldn't be surprised. You can see this buffalo's covered in ticks. So I wouldn't be surprised if the lions do actually eat some of those ticks. And some of them may even climb onto the lions. The lions also get ticks at times. We're probably going to leave these lions shortly, but just before we do, let's get an update from Taylor. She's got a large bird that she'd like to show you.
We have found a family of hornbills, and look at the juvenile that's coming out now. This is the first time I've seen the juvenile. Isn't that beautiful? They are really, really lovely birds. Now, I don't think I've seen this group before, or they've done a really good job at hiding the youngster from us. Here you can see some of the adults walking around. And I'm quite impressed, because this little one does seem to be scavenging for food on its own. Normally they just walk around and follow the adults and wait for one of them to pick up something. And then they come calling and making lots of noise. I'm going to reposition. I think I'm going to go forward. We might catch them again. Let's see if we can get another glimpse. I think we will get another glimpse too if we just park up a little bit ahead, and we'll just be patient. I'm not going to go too close to them, but I think we'll get a gap here and they might come out onto the road. Well, it's through a few trees, but I think when they eventually come across and cross the road, it'll be quite nice. There's 3 of them, and I did see another one crossing up ahead, so I could count 4. Now, I wish one of you would catch a chameleon for me, please. That looks like a female at the back. Not quite as bright red as the male. Oh, I'd really like to actually go over and have a look at that Hornbill's dung. What do you think? I think we should go over. I've never seen hornbill dung before. I'm sure it just looks very much like other bird dung. But let's see if they get away a little bit, or move further away, and then perhaps we'll go and have a look. Let's start making our way that side. It'll be quite interesting to see, considering that they eat sort of quite large prey, and of course they scavenge quite a bit. Let's see, we'll just take the sneaky little link road. And everyone else is giving their last call for the evening. The magpie shrikes are shouting. Okay, before I do that, let's watch them before they disappear, because they're going into some thick stuff now. They're moving away. Off that one goes. And this is actually really nice. You can actually see the difference between a male, a female, as well as a juvenile. We saw with that juvenile, it's almost got grey facial skin. It's going to pop out now on the right. Here it is. Almost a bit of a yellow tinge to the throat, to that vocal sac. Have you found something? There we go, well done. Learning as it goes along, that's nice. I like to see that they're not just relying on the parents. Oh, we're missing one more. Right, let's move forward. Let's go across quickly and have a look at this feces. Now, I know you're probably thinking it's quite bizarre. But like I said, I want to have a little examine. Now, I must be careful not to drive over it. Be on the lookout for the poop. Oh, I see it. Right, I'm going to jump out very quickly. Can you see it just over there? I want to go and have a closer look myself. Right, let me unplug my lifeline here. Now, I'm going to have to go the long way around here, because I'm not going to walk into this knob thorn. And I apologize if I'm quite dirty. I was doing all sorts of things on the vehicle today, so I'm not the cleanest. Probably not going to touch it with my hands, so we'll find a stick. It actually doesn't smell very nice. Bit stinky, as you can imagine feces would smell, huh? So look, there's a little fly. Can you see that little fly that's already probing around you, having a little look? Can you see it, Viam? It's just there. It's really small. I'm going to open up this poo a little bit. Very sticky. Looks a little bit like chocolate sauce. Could be vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Now, I was wondering if we were going to find anything inside this dung, but it doesn't look like. It seems as though they've got a very good digestive system. So look at all the flies coming around it now, getting all the moisture off of the feces. Beautiful green and blue. Isn't that lovely? Wonderful. But let's leave them. Not as interesting as I thought it was, just the very typical, the darker color, which you normally get, of course, with the birds, and then, of course, the white, which is all that uric acid. So remember, they've only got one opening. Everything comes out of that opening. I'm going to quickly zoom around and jump back in. Look at that beautiful sunset. And you can see that massive cloud engrossing over the sky. Now, I wonder if we're going to get a thunderstorm. There's a couple of clouds that are building up. Right, I can finally hear again. Isn't that beautiful? Now, there's somewhere I want to take you. And I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. But let's go back across to Byron and see if that lioness has had any luck with opening up the buffalo.
She's eaten a little bit more, Taylor. She's trying to get that stomach open, but watch, this male is now showing a bit more interest and looks like he'd like to potentially start feeding. It's really funny to watch, actually. It's almost like he's not sure what to do. Really great to have seen those ground hornbills again with Taylor. I love seeing these rare birds. So I'm glad she got to show you them. We saw one this morning. It's always wonderful to see them around. You can see that female's just tearing and trying to rip open that underside of the buffalo, trying to get to that soft meat. The male got up, walked around a little bit, licked the carcass once or twice, and then has just gone and lay down again. So I'm very surprised that he hasn't decided to start feeding. He looks very lazy. Or rather, maybe lazy is the wrong word. I think lazy is the wrong word. He looks content. He looks happy, relaxed. His food, it's still a very, very warm afternoon. So there's no need for him to move around or worry. This buffalo is definitely not going anywhere. So there'll be food here for the entire evening. You never know. The rest of the pride could eventually join them unless they've got some food elsewhere that we don't know about. Wow, look at that yawn. Wonderful. You see those teeth. Now, usually yawning may indicate a sign of activity. May stand up and move around. And Brooklyn, age 10, has asked us a question. Why are all the buffalo dying? Are they sick? So, Brooklyn, what's happened is, I think these buffalo are very, very weak. They haven't had a lot of food. There's not a lot of grass around. And I'll ask Dave to show you just now, but at the moment, it's very, very dry. We've got little bits of green grass coming out. And if you look just off to our left, can you see here? There's actually no grass. There's little bits of greenery coming through because of the little bit of rain we had. But because there's no grass, there's not a lot of food for these buffalo to eat. So they're getting very thin, they're getting very weak, and it's because we call it a drought. So it's the dry season that we've had. It's been very, very dry, not a lot of rain, and that is why there's not a lot of food for these buffalo to eat. And that is why I think the main reason why they are a lot weaker, and because they've been hanging around in this area where these lions are prevalent and all over. The lions have been bumping into them on a daily basis, and that is why I think that it's easier for the lions to hunt them and feed on them, because these buffalo are not as strong as they usually are, and they're not able to get away as much. Oh, you can see that's all the stomach contents on that lioness. Ugh. Oh, look at, she's just stretching, trying to maybe stretch her claws. Often they do that to stretch them and clean them a little bit. They'll scrape them on the side of trees. Oh, that's interesting. And now just walking away. Look at the male tapping the back of her legs, trying to get her to lay down. Oh, watch everybody. I thought he may try and mate with this female, but But he's not interested in there. Oh, he's just going to lay down again. This is incredible. Within the minute that the lioness has got up and walked away from the buffalo, I can hear a swarm of flies, and those flies are all over that carcass now. Just have a look at this. Look at all those flies. Isn't that incredible? Obviously the smell from the stomach contents being released is just too much, and it attracted all these flies. But literally within the minute that she stood up and moved away, those flies just invaded that buffalo carcass. Very, very interesting. Oh, hang on. Listen to this lioness. She just gave a very low contact call, a little oh, oh, but she stopped now. Listen. There we go. Come on, roar for us. That would be wonderful. Possibly trying to find out where the rest of the pride is. That's how lions communicate. They'll roar and call. Just trying to hear if I don't hear lions calling back, but that was a very soft contact call that she gave. If I have any idea where I think the rest of the pride is, a bit too far to hear that. But we're not sure. I mean, we didn't really know where these lions were. They popped out of nowhere this afternoon, and it was great to be able to follow them right back to this carcass. See, she's just cleaning herself a little bit there, but she's got all those stomach contents on her front legs. Look how she's cleaning her paws, and again using that tongue, that rough tongue, which is able to clean themselves, perhaps get little thorns out of the paws or the pads underneath, if they do have any. Very peaceful. It's amazing how peaceful it can be sitting next to these lions. And again, look at those legs covered in the buffalo stomach contents. And that male, that face tells a lot of stories. Listen. She keeps teasing us. One or two little calls, and then she stops again. And look, that male doesn't want to let her out of his sight, following her non-stop, staying very, very close to her. Wow, that's so interesting. They seem to be moving off now, further away into the thicket, and that's why I said I don't think they were necessarily that hungry to eat this buffalo. Came across it, opportunistic, tried to feed a little bit, and now they're moving away again. It is very thick through there, and we are losing some light at the moment. It'll be tricky for me to follow them. I'm going to head around, try get to a road, and maybe we get them coming out on the other side. And while I do that, let's head to Steph and get an update from him. I hope he's had a good afternoon.
Byron at least telling us those words that are so loved to hear but so often do not out of Brent's mouth. You know, the bush is getting thick, oh, we can't follow the lions. You catch us busy sneaking up on a dwarf mongoose colony. They are in this little termite mound over here, and they have just dipped their heads down. There's one on the right hand side hole just sticking his forehead out. I can just see the forehead coming out. Right hand side hole, can you see there, Brian?
Yeah.
Watching us here. This is a troop of mongoose that live on quarantine and are actually quite relaxed around people, and I was wanting to see if they'd come out and share their home for the night with us and give us a little bit of those sunset tactics. Quarantine at the moment is just alive with animals. There's buffalo, there's lion on the one edge, there's dwarf mongoose, there's a flock of ground hornbill on the one side, waterbuck, impala, giraffe. It's just been a crazy day around quarantine. I'm not quite sure why. I think there's a lot of water around. I don't think it's because of the water. There's a lot of food around. It could be the quality of the grass on quarantine is just that much better than anywhere else. But for some reason, I'm yet to decide what it actually is. For some reason, I don't know why, but it just seems to be a hive of activity, and of course the lions making the most of the abundance, and I'm glad for it. I must be honest with you. Now, Heidi, you've come up with a suggestion on what chemicals are used to create the fire on that elephant dung. You've asked if it was soap and iodine. You may have got confused. It was a little bit of a tricky question in that I had quite clearly had some clear gel-like liquid in what looked to be a hand sanitizer bottle, and you're quite right there, it was hand sanitizer, but I had poured the soap out to pour that gooey substance in yesterday, because the receptacle that I received it in was a little bit big for me to carry on my backpack, so I decided to put it into a hand sanitizer bottle. So you got it half right. Was it iodine? You're close, but not quite. Very similar to iodine, but not quite. In actual fact, I will say it is the other purple antiseptic that you get rather than iodine, and one that's kept quite commonly and was kept quite commonly decades ago. My grandmother used to keep a lot of this particular, or my great-grandmother at least, used to keep a lot of this particular antiseptic in her, I was going to say chemistry set, believe me, but in her medicine cabinet. There we go. Thank you, Brian. Hand signals. We're playing charades here for the rest of the evening. No, so not hand sanitizer, although it could probably be used as a base for hand sanitizer, and not iodine. However, that's a very, very close guess there, so we'll keep you guessing a little bit longer and see if you can get it. You were the only one that handed in a couple of suggestions, I think, and so good for you. Junebug has asked, now they come in here. Junebug has asked, was it bleach and alcohol? No, it wasn't bleach and alcohol. There was no alcohol-based substances in either of the two compounds that I used, and there wasn't bleach there. As far as I know, we can't use the one compound, the crystal that I used. You can't use for a bleach. However, it does dye purple quite well, giving you all the clues here to find it. So no, it wasn't bleach and alcohol. It wasn't soap and what was the other one? So no, that wasn't any of those ones that we've just used at the moment. But you're getting close. Or soap and iodine. No, it wasn't soap and iodine. It wasn't bleach and alcohol. But you are getting awfully close as to what it is. And you'd be surprised at how simple the answer is once you do find it, at least anyway. I wonder what these little dwarf mongoose are thinking at the moment. It obviously isn't. Let's come out and play with the humans on quarantine. Yes, now we're getting closer. So Mr. P. Hart, you said, was one of them potassium permanganate, or Condy's crystals as it's commonly known. Yes, you're 100% right there. So one of the compounds was potassium permanganate or Condy's crystals. Quite often you use just a little bit in some water as an antiseptic, and my great-grandmother used to dye her hair quite purple with it from time to time. I'm still not quite sure where the habit came of dyeing hair purple with this particular substance came, but it's a fairly easily obtained substance across the counter. So well done, P. Hart, you got that 100% correct. So one of them was Condy's crystals, and now it's just left the other one. Shouldn't be too hard to get. You think to yourself, it's not hand sanitizer and not an alcohol-based compound, but it is clear, it is quite gel-like, and is used quite often in a medical kit or in a medicine cabinet at home. You should be able to get it quite quickly now, though, with half the riddle solved. And will burn pretty much anywhere, as far as I understand. Anna has just won the prize. Well done, Anna. It was glycerine and potassium permanganate. Well, congratulations. I'm very proud of everybody. So thank you very much for sending through all those things. It's actually been a wonderful quiz to have with you. And yes, it is. So it's glycerine and potassium permanganate. The ratio of which you just have to play with on your own. I'm not going to give you the ratio of, you never know who's listening to these programs. So play with that ratio yourself, but you see, it's a wonderful fire starter at least, and a great party trick, one of those survival tricks that I can show you. All right, so we are going to be going to Brian, I think, for a little bit, and we're going to carry on walking across quarantine, apparently trying to dodge some buffalo and some lion that are around here. So we're going to keep our eyes peeled.
So I am indeed not by, I don't know, wait, was Steph trying to go to Byron, I'm not sure, but we've got Mr. Tingana, and that's all that matters, and he's fighting the flies, and now he's up and moving around. He was lying in some mud to try and keep cool, and I think try and keep away from the flies. There he goes. He's pacing it though, not happy at all about all these flies. So I'm just going to, maybe we'll try and roll back. No, we're not going to run out of steam. We'll reverse quickly. Let's see where he's off to, but he's been biting the flies and fighting them, not happy at all. Hey, big boy. Isn't this lovely? He is such a beautiful leopard. Are you going to try there, or are you just using the luxury facilities? Now, this is the first proper opportunity I've really been able to photograph him, but look at the size of his neck. He is turning into a monster of a leopard. He's really looking lovely and good, and very healthy, which is great to see that the king is still indeed the king. And if he continues to look like this, well, then I think it's going to be very difficult that someone is going to take over his territory anytime soon. I think I ate a fly. I'm just going to swallow. That was nasty. Right, now I'm going to go around quickly. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Now, Wild Earth Girl, you want to know, do lions or leopards show any preference to their left or right paw? Not that I've seen. However, you know, with humans, how we all have a dominant foot or a dominant hand, I couldn't imagine it not being that with cats. We see it with elephant. They have a preference whether they're left or right-handed, which tusk they seem to use more. So I reckon that it is quite possible, and that's a question I've never been asked before. So, Wild Earth Girl, thank you. It's something that I'll have to do a bit more research about. It's something that I haven't come across just while reading. And I wonder if actually anybody would be able to know the difference. I don't know what you would look for. If you'd look for perhaps more wearing in the pads of their feet, perhaps that would be an indication. But you can see him there. He's very much frustrated with, of course, all these flies. And I thought that he may earlier have got up and moved to a pile of mud, which he was doing. But I think, unfortunately, all that did was brought more flies towards him, because, of course, they're also going after the moisture. It's extremely hot today. But there we go, that's some beautiful shots that I'm sure you'll be able to get. My lens is way too long now, so you're going to have to take lovely pictures for me. Of course, it's getting a bit dark to really get any good photos. So there he goes. Now, I hope he doesn't cross south. That's the risk. Let's quickly try and... I'm going to give him a bit of room, because this morning he didn't seem to be too happy with the vehicles. But he doesn't seem too bothered by us, and of course it's just us moving. Okay, we need to quickly try and take a gap. I'm going to get in front of him again. I'm going to give him a wide berth, otherwise we're going to lose him. And I think he's going to cross south off of our traverse. We're right on Gowrie Main now. So let me try and zip around. And sometimes these cats just have off days. So he hasn't shown us that he's upset with us at all, but just from his behavior this morning of not wanting to be seen, it's quite unusual for him. So let's give him a bit of room. But luckily he's sat down again. You'll see him coming up on the right now. Just want to position us nicely so we've got some decent light. There we go. And he's very relaxed with us. We're probably about 20 meters or so away from him. Looks a lot closer, but we're actually not. And there he is. Looks much happier now. Just angle those lights at him. Hello, big boy. And look at that beautiful face of his. I can't help but take a couple of pictures. Like I said, this is the first time that I've really had the opportunity to see him. I want to take full advantage of this, but it's difficult. It's easier, I think, for you to take photos and take the screenshots, because I've got to have my ISO right up and my shutter speed quite low, which makes it quite difficult in this light to photograph. Now you can really see how majestic this leopard is. And with those clouds coming over, it's potentially a good evening to hunt. Hopefully they will engulf the sky. The only thing though is we seem to have a downpour of rain and then the leopards disappear for quite a few days. So I hope they don't, if it does rain, I hope they don't go for too long. The cicadas in the background as well. That's that high-pitched noise that you're hearing that we've been chatting about. Shame, big man. You need some elephant dung to be burnt around you, and then perhaps all those insects will leave you alone. Right, we're going to unfortunately lose this leopard, so I think it's time to say goodbye to him. But let's go back across to Steph. Or maybe we'll have another sighting of him, but let's go back to Steph very quickly.
Yeah, it has become weirdly dark much sooner than I was expecting it to tonight. And here we are standing on quarantine, literally where we started the walk today, sharing it with these two beautiful Nyala bulls that we have behind us. They're busy watching us with, I think, mild amusement. Uncommon for them to be in the open. Generally, Nyala are associated with quite thick bush, but I think that there's something flowering here and they're making the most of it, or leafing here, and they're making the most of an untouched resource at the moment. But like I said, it has come to that time of the day when we're having to say goodbye. So I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of Brian and myself for joining us on the bushwalk this afternoon. Thank you very much for all your questions and your support once again. And we'll be on walk again tomorrow morning. So catch you bright and early. We're going to send you over to Byron.
So everyone, we managed to get out of that dense thicket and drive around, and we thought we'd find the pair again, but we haven't. This is a different lioness. Can you believe it? She's come out of a thicket somewhere, also in this area, so all these lions seem to be around here somewhere. I'm hoping she heads towards a plain. I'm just scanning around. We did hear something up ahead. Maybe the other lions are not too far. And you can see, I can tell it's a different lioness immediately. Look how clean those front legs are. Not as dirty as the one we were with. And I think she may go and drink at the water hole just off to the side. Let's go around quickly and see where she goes. Maybe we find the others up ahead. Let's look. I did hear something. It sounded like a growl or a grunt. Let's look carefully. Don't see anything just yet. Let's just have a look if this lioness comes out to drink. That would be wonderful with the light that we've got left. I'm just going to wait here. There she comes. Hang on. I do think she's going to go and drink. It's been a hot afternoon, so I'm going to reposition quickly so we can get her coming to the water hole. She could also change her direction completely though. Let's see. There she comes. Don't want to shine the spotlight directly on her, just in front of her, just for enough light so we can see her clearly. And this was probably the female that we saw this morning with that other male, and I don't know where he is gone. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that reflection, everybody. Oh my word, this is wonderful. Look at that. That's really, really fantastic. And this is kind of what we've been waiting for, you know, sightings like this, the patience, following these lions, we struggled to get out of that little block that we were in. We took a chance coming around thinking this is the nearest water, perhaps that male and female come and drink here, and then all of a sudden we bumped into another lioness that we saw moving through the dense thicket. This is great. We've been so lucky this afternoon. What a fantastic afternoon. I hope you have all enjoyed it as much as we have. I've loved these lions. They've been so kind to us. Been more active than lions usually are in the heat of the afternoon. Look at those eyes. Now notice her tongue actually curls backwards while she's drinking. Is lapping up the water. Can you see that? So they don't get a lot of water with each lap of the water or each lick. So that is why these animals, when they do get to drink, lion and leopard and all these big cats, they tend to drink for quite a long time because they need to get as much water as possible. That is magnificent. So peaceful. I'm not sure if you can hear her lapping up the water. It's very soft, very faint.
You can hear it?
Dave just told me you can hear it. Listen again. Wonderful. Red-chested cuckoo calling in the distance. That bit my fro. And as I said, look how much water this lioness is drinking. She's drinking a huge amount. Staying down there, sipping and sipping and sipping because she's been very hot. I'm assuming today it was a hot day. So she's getting all the water she can get for now. Quench that thirst and then move on again. Very curious to know where the male is. So I think that's about it for the afternoon with all these lions. It's been such an exciting afternoon. I'm so glad we got to show you all this lion activity, the buffalo and the lions drinking. A big thank you to Dave on camera with me this afternoon. Thanks, Dave. And we will see you all tomorrow. From myself, Byron, thank you very much. We'll see you on tomorrow morning's sunrise safari. Back to Taylor, and she will end the show.
We've still got Tingana. Thankfully he didn't cross. He's just getting very frustrated because of all the flies. Though I'm scared I'm going to jinx it for him. He seems to not be as agitated in his new spot. He has, since we last saw you, moved 3 times. He even resorted to sitting underneath a large fruited bush willow. And he covered himself with all the branches and the leaves, but not even that could keep the insects at bay. But finally, it seems as though he is coming to peace, or at least it's maybe getting a bit dark now, and perhaps all the flies are going away. They've stopped bothering me so much. So maybe it's just a couple that are hard workers and don't mind working overtime. You can see all those flies still hanging around. He said, "Now go home, flies. You're supposed to be diurnal, not nocturnal, and give Mr. Tingana a break. He's had to put up with all your nonsense the entire day. It's quite ridiculous." Don't worry, Tingana. I'll leave some elephant poop burning for you. And then hopefully that will help a little bit. Hopefully we'll be able to follow up on him again in the morning. Maybe he won't go south, but perhaps he'll come back north. VM says that he hopes to hear his calls this evening on quarantine, and of course so do I. I miss the rasping of a leopard. Now, I didn't get to do my leopard call for you, unfortunately, and with him sitting so close, I'm probably not going to do it, just in case it upsets him a little bit. But tomorrow morning, I promise that I shall do a leopard call for you. And whoever else is driving, maybe if Steph's out on a walk again, we're going to get him to do one. We'll practice tonight, perhaps. Now, unfortunately, we're coming through to the last few seconds of the show, and I hope you've had a wonderful day with us. I just want to say thank you to all the lovely ladies in Final Control and everybody else, Steph and Byron. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you for the Sunrise Safari.